Push it real good.
Preparing to live stream this meeting. Got it. We are live, I think. It's 10:30 a.m. on the West Coast, 1:30 p.m. on the East Coast. It's Value After Hours. I'm Tobias Carlisle, joined as always by Jake Taylor and Bill Brewster. What's up, fellas?
Back from Omaha, feeling great. Got the recharge. Life is good. How about you boys?
I need a recharge from Omaha. It was very fun. Nice to meet many of you.
I got to say, I'm totally energized from doing that. I loved catching up with you guys, catching up with all of the old friends of mine, meeting lots of new people. It's great to see that there are actual real people behind the computer screen.
Behind all these troll accounts.
Yeah,
That's right.
So that was fun. We had a little meetup, a little impromptu meetup after the meeting. Jake and I sat through the whole thing, sat through the second half, which I haven't done before, but it was really good. And then we tweeted out with an hour before the end to meet up. We had a great turnout. I'm an optimist. I would say we had 200 people there. Do you guys want to give me a different bid?
I think that might be a little high, but I'll take it. It was huge. There were thousands.
Best.
It was the best event of the weekend. Best event of Berkshire ever, I would say.
I got to live my dietary dream. I just ate C's candies and steak and came back and I lost weight. So I think that's the secret.
Bang. There you go.
Amazing.
I drank IPAs and apparently didn't look as good in person as I do on camera.
Yeah, wasn't it? I was shocked that many people showed up, to tell you the truth. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, that was cool. I was overwhelmed. I thought it was really fun. It was a great turnout. Like some really great investors. It was fun.
I enjoyed just getting to spend a little bit of time with you guys in person, even though we see each other all the time over this, but just to
it's better.
To hang out. It's so nice. I love you boys.
Yeah, likewise.
That's sweet. I love
Much
you
love.
too.
Hey, what was the highlight? Let's do that. Highlights.
From the meeting or just from the weekend?
Whatever, from the weekend.
No. I mean, it's the best networking event, I think, in finance.
100%.
So just seeing everybody again for the first time in a long time. See the homie Rishi. It's been a while.
Yeah,
I found myself talking to Gabelli and Bob Rabati at one point, in the lobby of the hotel. I was like, this is, if you had told me 5 years ago that this would have happened to me, that'd be wild.
I ran into William Green in the airport just before my flight took off, just before his took off.
Oh, good.
That was cool. Good to see him.
Yeah, I mean, kind of everybody's there, and they're all pretty okay with you chatting with them. So it's cool, huh?
I saw Lilu a few times. I think Lilu's he's my hero. He's my avatar. I'm a big fan of Lilu's. I like his.
I don't know
his
anything
process.
about him.
I just every time I see Lilu say something, I nod until my head falls off. I think he's very, very sensible.
Yeah, I'm certain he's smarter than me, but I don't know much else.
I
haven't read what he's written. I don't know that I haven't stumbled upon much of it. If anybody wants to send me any of it, I'll read it.
Moving the Mountain is his book. I own it, but I haven't read it all the way through.
I have. It's interesting.
You gave us I think I bought it after you gave
a rundown.
Yeah, gave the rundown. So what were your takeaways from the meeting?
My favorite quote from the meeting. Let me pull this up so that I don't. And I don't know if I got this exactly correct, like word for word verbatim. I haven't gone back and rewatched yet, but Munger said towards the end, to go a considerable distance with good company is a favored life. And I thought, wow, that's 12 words that really kind of sum it all up.
I have to say, not even for a 98-year-old man, but it is amazing that he is a 98-year-old man. He remains razor sharp. He's got the best one-liners. The more I heard him talk, the more I kind of really wanted to have a beer with Charlie, honestly.
Yeah, Charlie'd be awesome to cut it up with.
My favorite line from Charlie was when he was talking about the various jobs that they'd had as kids. And then he said, and that was when Charlie realized he could only ever work for the man who shaved him. I mean, Warren, it worked out he could only ever work for the man who shaved him.
Yeah.
I like that.
Had to be their own boss.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they have another one of these in them. We'll see. But it was fun.
Definitely points where Munger kind of bailed Warren out a little bit. Like Warren was kind of meandering a little bit in his stories, and then Charlie came in with something really pithy and punchy and like put a nice bow on it.
Yeah. He was.
I like the story about the plug at Solomon. They had that floating plug.
You got to tell that story. That was pretty good. For anybody who didn't hear it.
I mean, you should let Warren tell it. But listen, but basically the assets and the liabilities had to match, and they didn't quite know how, right?
And so they created this plug.
Like created a plug
12 years earlier that floated.
Yeah, and nobody ever figured out how to do it.
No one knew what was in.
It's $100 and something million by the time they got there. Charlie was on the audit committee and had to sign off on it.
Yeah.
What could that possibly be?
Oh, who the fuck
That's
knows?
the bezel. You get rid of that when the market falls over. You just write that off somewhere.
Flip it to the Fed.
Sell it to
plug. Sell the plug.
The actuary tables say Munger should live for another 4 years.
I'll take it.
I honestly think that Munger. I'd be a little bit more worried about Warren than I am about Munger. Munger's razor sharp.
Yeah. I listened on 2X. I didn't think Warren was as rambling as I did in person. But I also,
on 2X is still tight.
But I also didn't quite hear much in the meeting. I don't know. I mean, I said to you guys, like I part of why I moved is I'm taking care of my grandma. And what I've seen is like the mental slip, at least for her. This summer we had one, and then we've just like recently had another big one. And it happens slow then fast. So I hope that both of them get to go before they get to that point, because it's not guys with those brains, I don't think deserve that kind of a punishment.
Warren did seem to, he was slower to sort of make the point, lots of ums and ahs. And then I found that he took a lot of detours, and then like on the third you're down the third blind alley with Warren, and then he's got a slide for it. And I was like, what's this got? The optical.
I love when he's like, I have a slide for this. I wanted the question to come up. I'm just going to ask it myself. I was like, all right, cool. Come in with an agenda and get it done.
I couldn't understand sometimes what he was saying. He'd sort of run the words down a little bit. But the optical illusion one was, I've said to a few people, he just like, here's some optical illusions. I found these on the internet. Wasn't that cool?
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next up is what color is this dress? Is it blue or gold?
I think the optical illusion thing, though, is a nice metaphor for a lot of situations. I mean, there's a lot of, I think cable is one right now where,
always got to drag it back to cable, don't you?
Well, I mean, it's gotten crushed, right? So it depends what you want to see. And I think different people, I think it's important to try to make your brain see both sides of the illusion before you come up with a conclusion.
Very true.
That is true.
The other thing that I found a little bit hard to, I wasn't aware that there was some controversy around the Activision. So what has happened in Activision is one of the, or what it looks like from the outside is Berkshire has bought a position in it, and then Microsoft has announced the takeover, and then Berkshire has massively increased its position in Activision, and evidently there's some suggestion that they may have had some inside information because they had that initial position before the bid got announced. And so Warren gave a defense of that, but I wasn't aware of any of that context before he gave the defense. So he was he was just sort of saying that there had been this acquisition and then he had massively increased the stake.
Yeah. Well,
as a merger arbitrage. Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense because I think the bid's at 95, it was trading at 75. So that's like, and I don't know when it closes, but presumably before the end of the year. So it's like a
pretty fat
30% return with a IRR that's even higher than that again. And he was just saying there was no inside information. That was the point of it.
It's an interesting buy for them. I realize everybody thinks for themselves, but I think, that was a fragile situation with a whole lot of misconduct alleged. And
were you aware of that context before he gave the defense of it?
What?
That there was a suggestion that they'd had some inside information.
Oh, yeah, but I don't give a shit. That's not how Berkshire operates.
No, of course not.
I mean, to be fair, he definitely has better information than us. I don't know what the line of insight is, but I didn't think they had insight there. I thought Activision was a pretty clear, dislocated, high quality company in the parlance of Mark Mahaney. But you also had a bunch of cultural issues there that
right.
I'm sort of surprised. I guess what they would say is it's not like they're taking it over and owning it, and they made a distinction in the past between securities and companies they own. So
the thing is, though, when it was clearly it was way too cheap, and the cultural issues are resolvable. Like without too much effort, you just overcome those. Right? Those are resolvable.
I mean, Peter Kaufman at one point said that it could unravel the whole company.
It's like it's comparable to like Salomon, isn't it? Which similar situation where maybe
allegations of sexual misconduct from the top that were covered up. I don't know.
But do people who buy video games care about that? Probably not.
No, but if your developers all leave, I mean, I don't know. I didn't buy it. I don't know enough about it.
I'm not saying that it's not bad. I just think that you can resolve it. You're not going to lose the whole company. You're not going to lose the whole company. It's not like a Arthur Andersen type thing where it goes directly to the trust that people place in you to do the business, where that has to be broken up or dissolved or whatever they did to Arthur Andersen.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, there's franchise value that can bail you out there.
I mean, there's going to be recurring income from those. There's a trail on those games for a long time.
Yeah, I just think the issue is if your developers leave and then you can't bring other people in, then what do you have? But I agree with you.
It was it's discounted too. Like there's it's de-risked a little bit because it's discounted as much as it was. But in any case, it's been taken over by Microsoft, so Microsoft doesn't have any of those allegations at the top.
Bill Gates, Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, there we go. We just got demonetized.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just I get all my news on Twitter.
This is just separate.
So it's facts.
I got a note from YouTube saying you're not allowed to talk about Ukraine and Russia, and you're not allowed to suggest that you're not allowed to victim blame. That's the words that they used. So don't do that.
YouTube said that?
Yeah, I got an email saying if you do that, you'll be demonetized.
What is victim blaming?
Suggesting that they had invited the attack.
Yeah, so that we get demonetized.
But have you ever heard that in relation to a country, like a country victim blaming?
No,
I haven't.
I thought it was funny that they use those terms particularly. This is probably demonetized, but as a result of
just
talking
even
about
bring
this,
it up, we're done.
But I thought it was such a strange thing.
It is strange, especially given some of the other stuff that YouTube allows. And I would not be one that would victim blame anyway. But the suggestion that you're not allowed to is somewhat upsetting.
Strange, right?
Speaking of that, like, am I the only one? I don't know if it's my feed or what, but like if you get served an ad during our show, like some of those are the jankiest kind of like bucket shoppy type of ads that I'm just like, sometimes I'm shocked. I'm like, God, I can't skip through them fast enough.
Yeah, I mean, look, like Putin's a piece of shit, like no doubt.
Oh,
But
We're back on.
yeah, but
We got a
like,
bonus.
I'm not sure that you need to, like, from a company-wide standpoint, silence one view. Like, that's insanity to me.
I just don't know anything about it at all. I don't know why people have got strong opinions one way or the other.
Well, I know why people don't like Putin, but I don't know why Google thinks that they are the one that should be
arbiter of discussion.
Who can monetize what and who can't, and what can be discussed. I think that's a dangerous place to go, especially since some of the early COVID conspiracies that probably would have gotten us demonetized are actually looking not so conspiratorial
True.
now. Yeah.
Kevin Jamieson says, do you get demonetized for victim blaming value investors? Only on this show.
Yeah. Where were they when we needed help?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that was a funny tweet from Eddie Elfenbein yesterday.
Oh, what to say? I didn't see it.
Oh, I just said, 2020 value investing, value investing's dead. Anybody who looks at PE ratio doesn't know what they're doing. 2022, actually, ...
Oh.
I think this is a really interesting period where, like, I'm really interested to see what happens 3 years out from all these multiples imploding, because I actually think it's highly rational for a company to spend as much as humanly possible when they're being rewarded like they were. And if there's a land grab and now multiples have compressed, there's less of an incentive to come in and compete. And like now you can kind of get rational. But I've always wondered whether or not they're going to be able to get rational. So it's I think this is it's going to be interesting.
You're incentivized. I mean, when the market is treating you that way, you're incentivized to do it in the short term to meet the market. But whether it's rational, and so therefore it is rational in that moment. Whether it is rational long term for your business, I think is a different question. But I agree.
Well, look at what Netflix did. Now they've got a $30 billion recurring revenue base that's not ad supported that they can go out and fight with. Like, do they need to pivot some stuff? Yeah, they need to pivot some stuff. But like, I don't know, financial analysts that are like, this is a terrible business model. Like, okay, go do what they did, then you can talk. I mean, I'm not trying to be an ass, but I think
is that what they all sound
I
like?
would. Well, I would much rather have the problem of having $30 billion and figuring out how to generate profit off of that than try to be like, well, I really need to make sure that my ROI is right here. So, I mean, it was it was a once in a lifetime opportunity to get the asset position that they got. Now they got it. So now let's see if they can flex it. I would have done the exact same thing, especially if the debt markets funded it.
I'm also reminded of it. I forget where this was, what show it was, but they're making fun of Netflix and saying that, you call Netflix up and they say, hello, this is Netflix. You've been greenlit. Who am I talking to?
That was South Park. South Park.
That's right.
Netflix. You've been greenlit. Who am I speaking to?
Yeah, that's right. So then the question becomes like, okay, well, can that culture maybe change a little bit? That seems like an easier thing to change than trying to figure out how to grow into it.
So what interesting bit of rumor did you pick up at the meeting? That you're allowed to talk about?
Toby and I were making the joke that if they were going to do a big announcement, it would have been funny if they had said that Charlie, since he stepped down from Daily Journal as the chairman, has a little bit more time in his schedule. So he can now become the chairman of Berkshire. And then that way CalPERS will be happy with separating the CEO and chairman roles.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. CalPERS had this vote on to split the chairman CEO role from Buffett, like ignoring the fact that he's still a major shareholder and probably has a lot of support from the other shareholders too. So it's highly unlikely anybody's going to vote against him. Yeah. So that was a non-starter. I don't know why they'd like a little protest vote. There seemed to be like, if you want to get famous, write a short report or go activist on Berkshire and then get up and have your little 2 cents. But they've changed that the way that the meetings run now. You remember they used to open it up, do whatever like was absolutely mandatorily required, and then they'd say, any further business, and there was none, and they'd close it and the meeting was over in like 30 seconds, and then they'd take questions. Now they take the questions and they leave the business of the meeting until after the second session. So you have to come back to hear that, whatever the protest votes are. I don't even know if they televise it.
Yeah.
You almost don't need to, because all the votes are in hand. So there are zero surprises.
It's like the Oscars, like the, Academy Award for like best sound engineering or something like that. They don't run that in prime time.
Yeah, exactly.
Best foreign film.
Yeah, this doesn't qualify as a rumor, but I got an update. A guy that I know from Chicago, Adam Patinkin, I think that's how I say his last name. He runs David Capital. He just had a big activist win. I think he said he got everything he wanted, and that's exciting for him because that dude has worked very, very hard for a number of years.
In what business?
It's in UK. I don't know exactly. I mean, I'm not informed enough to talk about it, but he was excited, and he's a dude that's worked really hard. So it's nice to see him get a win, and I hope that his success continues.
Fair play to you, lad.
Yeah. European activism. Could be fertile ground.
Not as good as Japan, though, right?
Yeah, I don't know anything about what I'm talking about right now. It's just word salad.
Let's go back to Berkshire a little bit, and I thought might be interesting. This is as close as we're going to get to veggies today, just because this is one, we were all traveling and busy this last week, but so I just went through the 10Q of Berkshire and looked at some. I thought it's always interesting to see like what were the sources of cash, that like how'd money come into the door, and then what were the uses of cash, and so really just kind of untangle what Warren's been working on. So the sources of cash were they used $50 billion basically out of the piggy bank, took that off the balance sheet and put it to use. You had another $5 billion added in debt. This is just Q1, by the way. And then $7 billion came in the door, and very, very rough numbers, right? Like we're just kind of sketching it out. $7 billion came in from cash flow from operations. So total that all up and you get to like $62 billion. And then, so what did they use for that? $40 billion into equities, $12 billion into US treasuries, very short term, $5 billion into fixed income, $3 billion of CapEx, which is a little bit more than depreciation and amortization, and then $3 billion in buybacks. So add that all up and you get it to roughly that 63 billion kind of rounding. So mostly took cash out of the till and bought equities really in Q1, which is a little maybe potentially surprising.
I heard somebody say this, and I haven't verified it, but they said it was the most money that Berkshire had ever spent on equities in a quarter. It was either it must be the most money. Like that makes sense, right? It wouldn't be
not as a percentage, right?
Yeah.
But maybe total, just because they're so big.
It's sort of Buffett had a great line or a story where he was talking about. I think somebody asked a question about how, like, even though they sort of say that they don't time, how do they get their timing? How is Buffett such a good timer? And he said, and he gave 2007 as the example, or maybe it was 2000. I wasn't exactly sure about the time period, but he said, we invested $15 billion, which was a much higher percentage, which is a lot more to Berkshire then than it is now, trying to buy, spend it on a whole lot of equities between Goldman Sachs and something else.
GE.
So what time period was that?
This is like middle of 2008, kind of before things really
before the big fall over.
Yeah. And then, we'll keep going, but he wrote the op-ed in
Buy American I Am.
Right. So he just bought a bunch of stuff. He writes this op-ed, and we still had another probably 6 months or something to go before it really bottomed.
Yeah, there were two big 15% down quarters at an index level. Q4 2008 and Q1 2009 were 15% down or 15 to 20% down each.
All of which is to say he thinks his market timing is not that good.
If he'd known that was coming, he wouldn't have done it then. He'd have waited 6 months. Yeah.
Any concern about him buying oil and Charlie and him debating who's more incompetent with oil?
Yeah, but come on, these guys, when they say they're incompetent, that means they're just only in the top 98 percentile of understanding.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at his historical record in oil. I think it leaves a little to be desired, but I don't know that matters.
Yeah, that's fair. It's been some hits and misses.
China National was a good one.
Very good.
That was a 6-bagger.
Yeah, 4, 5, 6x.
I think it was 6 when I looked at it because I didn't follow him in, but I saw him buy it.
Yeah.
I only follow him into the bad stuff.
Yeah.
I like it. Smart.
He bought
it's like what I'm going to do to myself. I'm going to Costanza myself.
Fade yourself.
Just go full invert.
Yeah.
I wonder
be my last gasp before I become an indexer.
If you had
be like, holy shit, I'm outperforming.
You get 2 portfolios, right? And you got to keep on rebalancing so they're equal weight. And one is like what you think, and the other one is the inverse of what you think. How do you think that performs? Like you've got this like Shannon's demon thing going on there where you're taking away from the one that's working and putting into the one that's not. Yeah. But I wonder which one outperforms.
You may not want to know that answer.
Is it inevitable that one has to outperform? Like does one of them have to beat the market?
No, I'd probably lose on both.
They both underperform somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I something came up about my indexing comments. Here's a problem I have, and this is a very good problem, but
too rich.
No, I have this massive constant position in Microsoft. The cost base of $1.37, right? So it's all taxable. So even if I'm good at what I want to do, am I going to leave my kids this same problem? Whereas like the index, if you truly have, and I'm not, when I say an index, I mean an ETF structure, a tax advantage structure that can continue to roll in and out of stuff. You don't have to continue to make decisions. And you can leave that to somebody who also doesn't have to make decisions. That's fairly powerful.
The index, the SPY, I think is reasonably well constructed these days. Historically, that hasn't always been the case. It's often been, it's well known that the biggest name in the index almost inevitably underperforms, and that's been true. And you can look back at what it's historically been like Exxon or something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's not, you could do an equal weight. I'm not like, that's why I'm saying, I'm not saying like indexing. You could do, I don't know, a value ETF, like whatever it is, the strategy, but I
was just going to say that you could, that would be a reasonably good bet these days. Like if someone came to you, I've said this a few times, but if someone came to you with like just take the top 30 names out of the S&P 500 and then readjust the weighting so that's each one is a proportion of the 30 names. Like you would look at that portfolio and say, oh, he's weighted into Google and Microsoft and Netflix, and this guy knows what he's doing. This is a real quality or reasonable price kind of portfolio.
Yeah. Be interesting to see. I found it interesting that Buffett was buying more Apple.
Yeah. Tell that story.
He's buying more Apple. That's all I know.
It was, what was the total amount?
600 million, right?
Is that what it was? I mean, there was I think $5 billion increase in consumer, whatever that is. I think Apple's inside of that. So I don't know exactly how it's peanut buttered around.
Does HPQ count as part of that?
Probably.
Because they're, comparable kind of quality businesses. HPQ.
Pretty much. So, not much difference.
World-class brand. Yep, that makes sense. Luxury
checks
printing.
Out. Definitely checks out.
That's the funny, because I everybody knows now I own HPQ, and I have since 2019, and so that's the one that every conversation I have is people who don't know that often start with like I get all of the stuff he bought except for HPQ. I can't understand it. Yeah, it's deep value.
Well, I've heard people say share loser in a shrinking industry, and I guess that may be part of the idea. Yeah, part of the idea is in a shrinking industry, you're not going to have entrants, so potentially profitability goes up, and they can reduce the share count.
Remember when 3D printing was going to be a thing?
I still think it will be.
But when it was
I think NFTs will be one day too.
When it was right at the top of the Gartner hype cycle.
Yeah. Well,
now it's in the trough of despair.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably the time to buy it.
I saw something, NFTs, like the amount of volume or whatever is just way like 90% off.
The Google
Yeah.
search is down to 24, which is like that's the lowest it's been since it topped out in sort of November 2021. So relative to the 100 on the index, it's 24.
Bill,
last time I looked.
how's your NFT game looking these days?
I stayed away from the NFT game. I'm telling you though, 2035, I bet it's a big thing.
Mm.
I
probably get
tend
one
to
of those
believe
Bored
that
Apes
all
now.
these bubbles have enough truth in them that there's a reason they bubble up. And I don't think, look, I think it was
Tulips.
speculative excess. Well, I've heard that the tulip bubble was very misunderstood, but I don't.
Care to elaborate?
Everybody's
Well,
rewriting
I
history
don't know
after the
enough,
fact.
but I have heard like a lot of people get their facts from what is it? That it's not Edwin Lefebvre, is it? I think it is that Mania Panics and whatever. I don't know. I've just heard that his I've heard that his accounting whoever. I've heard that the was I thinking a reminiscence of a stock operator?
that's Lefebvre.
Yeah. I don't know. I just heard that his account of history is not actually historically correct. Check with Jamie Catherwood. He's smarter than me.
Okay.
And he actually knows what he's talking about. I don't even know that I heard this from him. I just figured it's a
History.
history question. Send it to him.
Gotta send it to that
That's
guy.
his brand.
That is his brand.
So anyway, I don't know. I do believe in the metaverse one day. I don't know what that will all mean, but I do believe that NFTs will be a real thing. I just think we were 13 to 15 years early.
Well, when do those Bored Apes? Have you got your?
My buddy's still in it.
Bored Ape in the screen.
I
Get your
don't, I
bid
have
in
no,
way
I
on the
don't even
market on
watch
Bored Ape.
Bored Apes.
Or did
I
you
would
just
love to have an
right
ape,
click
though.
save as?
No, I wouldn't do that. That's not right.
Okay.
I respect the code.
Devil take the hindmost.
Yeah, there you go.
That was one. No,
That's
you're thinking
Chancellor.
of. No, but Bill's thinking of the Mania
Yeah,
one from
Mania's
Charles-
Panics and Crashes, I think.
McKay, I think.
Yeah. I'd be knowing. I just don't know who wrote it.
Naga.
I'm not going to make that joke anymore.
Not gonna make.
Not gonna think of the right name. So
What else stands out from the comments?
I don't know. I'm still working through it, even though it's on 2x speed.
It was interesting. So like I also looking at the 10Q, like the buyback kind of schedule that they did. January, the average price paid was $299. February, $312. March, $322. April, they didn't do any buybacks, according to Buffett. And then right now, today, it's back at $322, which would imply that maybe the buyback machine is back up and running, I would guess. There's my hot tip.
That's interesting. Charles Kindleberger. Thanks, Chase Jones.
Kindleberg, Charles. Dang it. I had Charles right. Didn't have.
Yeah, so buy when Buffett's buying Berkshire. That's probably a pretty good.
It's not
Yeah,
the
what's
worst-
that guy know?
Worst strategy.
What's that guy know?
Yeah. Does he have a pretty good hunch of what that particular security is worth?
Nah.
No.
Will Berkshire make $1 trillion? I'm guessing this is the trillion market cap before Buffett hits 100 Munger hits 100 or Buffett hits 100. I think it was like 480 billion last time I looked. Do you know where it is now?
Pretty sure.
it's-
No, it's 7.
I think it's quite a bit higher than that now.
I said last time I looked.
That was 2014.
I don't know.
Book value is 500 billion alone right now. So what's the machine say, Mr. Brewster?
The Google machine says 712,
Okay.
50% return ish.
Yeah, could get there. I mean, could
could
get
do
there
that.
before Charlie hits 100.
You got 2 years?
I mean, it's possible.
Yeah. You just need a real run.
Nominal.
Tell you what, if it does, I'm probably gonna
I-
sell some. No offense to the buff dog.
Charter down big. Did Bill finally buy since he mentioned he missed it in the 2020 drop?
I didn't miss shit in the 2020 drop. I just didn't buy more. I was buying travel.
Buy shit.
I own Charter. I've owned it since 2018. I continue to own it. I will not, however, the younger
2017 prices.
It may be. Yeah. The younger me would have bought into this. The older me is not, mostly because if I'm right, they're probably going to retire 10 to 12% of the company this year, and I'll let them buy for me.
You don't want to buy more if they're going to, in this case?
I mean, I have a reasonable exposure to Charter right now. I don't think I need to make it some hero trade.
Call. Okay.
Yeah. I value survival much more than heroicism.
I think that'll serve you well.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna work out. Like if I'm right, I'm gonna be fine. And if I'm wrong, I don't need more additional exposure on it.
It does seem like there's some heroic concentration bets out there these days.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. I think some of that's because I had heard through, 2018 and getting more and more that some of the allocators were pushing more and more concentration upon people.
That's because they've got distribution across. They get their diversification.
I know, it's fucked up, right?
So
it's
they want
like
you to take
all the
risk.
risk.
Yeah,
that's right. So that I can not say that I'm hiring a diversified manager, so I can keep my job. So you can take all the risk. Like,
yeah. We need you to put 50% in your best idea so that I can check this box.
Yeah, I mean, that's we really like conviction and deep work and concentration, and meanwhile, like they're allocated to 100 different managers. Like, okay,
my fund blew up.
All they want.
Now what?
Yeah, listen to what I say, not what I do.
Oof. You're right. That is a kind of a gross principle.
It's an agency cost. Yeah, it's a massive agency cost, and if
people
you want to play the game, like
enough.
you kind of got to do it. And then the other thing that people don't think about, I don't think, is then you look at 13Fs and you're like, oh wow, they're like mad concentrated in this. That might, maybe it's like their best idea, or maybe they were pushed into it for other reasons.
It might be my bias towards sort of invincibility and survival, but I think that's the theme that they often hit. But I think that Buffett, Munger said at the start, it's not that we've done anything particularly brilliant over the years. We've just tried to avoid all of the particularly dumb things. And I think that that's much easier to do than trying to do brilliant things.
Yeah.
Like the list of things that'll blow you up.
Hampton's when to sell is like the greatest. I just
when to sell or when to double down.
I think it's when to sell. It is. I think that's what he wrote. But like, I just think in general, anytime that I listen to Hampton talk about risk management, I'm like, this dude has really thought about it, and he's really, really smart in this. I mean, I think he's smart, period. But when it comes to risk management, I have like mad respect for how he looks at the world.
What's his when do you sell? What's he say?
I think it's when not to double down would be the most accurate. Like it's goes back to Altice. Like I saw that guy's body language, and my perception of the story changed. And a younger me would have been like, I understand this asset base, I'm going to buy more. And I ended up selling at 19, and here it is at 9. Right. And if I had doubled down, then I'm looking at it like, well, now what do I do? Do I double down again? Like, no, that's how you get blown up.
And that one, especially when the take under is lurking, and you have to almost keep lowering your cost basis all along just to minimize the damage from a take under.
Yeah. It's
like you get pot committed to that kind of situation without really wanting, like, you're like, I just wanted to put a little bit of money in here, and now I'm like all in on this. And that was not this wasn't the hand I wanted to like go all in on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
They hate us because they hate us.
Now on top of that, yes, like there's probably a fair amount of opportunity cost, right? So let's say you do get taken under, and the market actually, like, forget about the market, but some of these companies that I think are trading at pretty reasonable valuations, like, start to take off on you. Now you got a taxable event, then you got to buy it higher. Like, I just no.
Yeah, so
I don't mind people buying it. It's just I'm not going to double down into it. I think it's crazy, and I feel somewhat similar with Charter, although I think it's a very different situation.
Buffett and Munger made it clear the biggest risk is nuclear war. I wonder what insurance underwriting they've done for nukes. Well, they had.
It doesn't matter. We're all fucking dead.
Hold on. They had Ajit Jain up on stage talking about that. And he talked about, there was kind of an interesting discussion there because he said, we exclude nuclear from all of our policies.
Yeah, but they're going to make us pay.
But we do underwrite for fire. And that's one of the, I mean, I studied insurance contracts when I was in law school, which is a long time ago now, but that was one of the, when you can kind of, you're insured for water damage, but not flood often, or the other way around, flood, not water damage. And it's a little bit of a, how do you have one without the other? But I don't know that there is an answer to that. You don't need to, I do remember that discussion, whoever's just drafting the email to me right now. But the fire one is interesting because what he was saying was not that their contracts won't stand up, but what he was saying that there might just be a policy decision at a legislative level where they say, or even in the courts, where they say, too bad, you got to eat those losses.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to worry about here with that because it's, in my opinion, we insure those kinds of things from a societal level, right? Like we'll all pay for that. I don't think it'll come down to like, why trash all of your insurance companies completely and zero them out from these.
I think you're assuming rational actors at a political level, which
I don't know. Moral hazard, man. They should carry enough cash to undergo nuclear attack at all times.
Oh, come on.
I mean, why'd we bail out the airlines when we stopped the economy? They should have had more cash on the balance sheet.
Well, that's an argument that we
doesn't make the facts different.
That's an argument for what I'm saying is that we will all pony up and take the tab for that kind of thing. It's not going to fall on any one like entity.
No, I think you're right. I think those are the times that bailouts are actually.
If you're worrying about Berkshire or any insurance company's survival in a nuclear holocaust, I think you're a little too plugged into the markets and need to be a little bit more plugged into humanity.
Yeah. Yeah, the markets are going down no matter what. Mitigate that with your.
Depends on the market at the time. Like 2021.
I mean, Fang's got a rip on that, I think.
I think even Fang's earnings are hurt on that.
Intangibles, bro. You can't nuke intangibles.
Yeah. You can win a lot of the values through advertising.
But it's one of those. It's like the John Maynard Keynes argument where
that's right.
John Maynard Keynes makes I like the way that John Maynard Keynes thinks about some things when like one of those
still does think about it.
Well, thought. Oh. I always feel like I'm having a conversation when I read. Like I think the general theory, it sounds like it's this really complicated work, but it's all free online. You can have a look at it. I think it's quite readable. I find the general theory that I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm a super genius or anything like that. I just find it easy to read. There's lots of stuff out there that I find impenetrable. That's just not one of them. It's a reasonable, easy read. But he makes the point in there that or in some of his letters, I forget now exactly where I saw it, but that there are some risks that they're just not worth worrying about. You just have to ignore them. You can't control them. So if it happens that there's a nuclear war, then you're going to be, it's probably not going to be gold. It's going to save you. You're going to need shotgun shells and shotgun barbed wire around the house.
I mean, T-bills would probably catch a bid, right?
Which one?
Briefly.
Treasury bills.
The VIX is going to go bananas. VIX calls. That's where you want to be.
VIX calls, Black Swan insurance.
But I do think that's like an asset allocation question. I don't think you can look at one individual equity and be like, well, which equity is going to be safe in a nuclear attack? None of them.
What does the Fed
They're all shorts. Yeah.
Where do you think they'll be setting the interest rate then? Jay Powell will still be aiming for 2% inflation. We're still targeting 2%.
Jay Powell. It's going to be interesting to see. Not so much the nuclear thing, where rates go. I have no interest in seeing the nuclear thing.
I don't either, but I'm finally getting around to reading Red Notice, Bill Browder. Incredible story, by the way. Just I love the hijinks that he's getting into in the investment context, like looking for these arbitrage situations that no one's looking at. Like, I think it's such heroic investment work that he was doing at that time. I'm not done with it yet, so it's maybe my opinion will change on how this all works out. But I'll probably end up doing a veggie segment at some point, because I think there's some interesting stuff in there. But just the idea of going after some of these opportunities that were just such market inefficiencies, like the information is just nowhere to be found unless you're actually boots on the ground doing the due diligence. Like that's like real investment stuff, not us, me debating like, oh, should you buy Google or not? Like it feels childish in comparison sometimes.
Wow, the 5-10's inverted.
What's that mean?
I don't know. It looks like the 10-year gives you 2.94 and the 5-year gives you 2.98.
On the recession risk, the recession typically follows, well, as we've discussed in the past, it's the 10-year 3-month is the research that was originally done by Cam Harvey, and that hasn't inverted this time around. But the 10-2 seems to be, for whatever reason, folks have latched
looks
onto
like
that.
2.75 today.
The 10-2 did invert, and then typically the recession follows 6 months after the 10-2 inversion. So the 10-2 has inverted and then uninverted, but that doesn't matter. The 6 months runs from the 10-2 inversion.
So how long do we have left in that? Like 4 months or something? Something
like that. Yeah. 4 or 5 months.
Until the world collapses.
Wouldn't it be funny if it was just as simple as that? It was just clockwork. You just knew it was going to happen. I mean, it does feel like we're sort of going through who really knows for this market? As we've discussed thousands of times, it could be up or down 30%, but from here. But this is what the bear markets, as we've discussed lots of other times too, this is what the bear markets look like, where
this is an actual bear market.
It rallies and then it falls to a lower low. And every time you buy something, like it kills both the dip buyers and the rip chasers.
This is why I'm not buying, man. The guy at the gym, when he stops buying, that's when I'll think about it. I don't mean it in a rude way. And if you're listening, I got mad love for you, but I am sort of using you as a content.
It's the shoe shine boy.
Yeah, he's an intelligent dude though, but I don't know. There's still a lot of buy the dip.
Well, it's been Pavlovian conditioned to be the winning strategy for, I don't know, 12 years now or something, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you what's interesting. Building permit data is like strong as hell, despite the rates.
Oh yeah. Does that measure starts then? Is that the idea?
I think that it leads starts.
To be fair, the rates move is very, very recent. It might take
it should take a couple months to get through, but
what if you can't finish the houses though? That's the other question, because you can't.
That's the problem. Completions are garbage right now.
Anyone notice the inefficient market in the lines to get in before the meeting? In the much shorter one, you could use the mobile app or the vaccine card. The long line was physical card only. Yeah, JT and I discovered that too.
Yeah,
we were in the app line, and because I'm a hyperbolic discounter, I hadn't actually downloaded my app until I got there, so which could have been in the other one.
Turns out it didn't really matter, but
it turns out it didn't matter.
It did feel like a smoother. I think there's some supply chain like analogy here, like of being like feedstock coming in at like a smoother pace, and then therefore you don't get as many snarls. But the loading up of the auditorium or the arena seemed to be smoother than in years past, when you needed sharp elbows to get to the seat that you wanted.
Yeah,
there also were a lot fewer people, I think.
Yeah, that's true, huh?
Did we get an official count? Did they give us did anybody see that?
No.
I never heard one.
Guys, I got to take a break. I'm gonna wet my pants. I'm sorry. I'll be right back.
Why do you think the numbers were down?
I have to imagine it was the China contingent, like maybe not being able to travel due to COVID zero type of stuff. That's my only. And now that it's live streamed, you don't have quite as much of an. You're not going to miss anything really, other than the social aspects.
I saw there were a lot of people in their KN95s and rubber gloves. I was not. I was just going completely commando,
just making out with every stranger you could.
That was a good test of the immune system. We're going to find out, I guess, in a few days. How many days? What's the incubation period? 4 days.
I don't know, but my wife was she's
like,
considering
go into
whether
another room.
yeah, she's considering whether to let me into the house or not.
Saw you in the
for a
hazmat suit.
few more days.
Made your hose off.
Yeah, exactly. I had to drink a bunch of bleach before she'd give me a kiss when I got home.
Yeah, I wonder. We're going to find out. I've got little kids, so I figure I've got like a bulletproof immune system.
Yeah,
at this point.
they're just feeding
Catch
you
everything.
microbes
Just
all the time.
stick their little hands straight in my mouth. Go and stick their hands into each other's mouths at school and come and stick it into mine when they get home.
Oh, it's cesspool. It's so gross.
But as a result, I can't get sick from anything anymore.
No, you like invincibles. You're running
true.
the immune system
I've
through
tried to become one, testing it out.
Yeah.
That's what they say, right? Test it out, check it all the time. So what was your like big ticket item, the thing that you took away, like the thing that you just like hammer into the nut, got to remember this for the rest of time?
Yeah, I would say it is it's not your rate of return, it's the exponent on that calculation. How many years can you do it? And if you can stay alive to get that exponent to be as big a number as possible, then that's the real name of this game. It's not putting up 20 or 5 or 30% returns for a couple of years. It's can you do it for a lot of years? And that's how you win.
Yeah, that was mine too.
No, sorry. I got that one already. I have to come up with something else.
Well, mine was that Charlie said, it's not doing the brilliant things, it's not doing the dumb things, but that's basically how you achieve what you're talking about. Like that's what I'm trying to get to. Just want to survive to the ripe old age of 98, and I'll get I think
that applies to the businesses too, where those returns on capital that aren't 50% that then go to 0 in 3 years because everyone wants to get in on your honeypot. I think it's the flying under the radar at that
13% return,
low teens is the.
Well, the S&P 500 averages 13.3, so maybe you want to be at like 13.4.
No one's looking there.
And like just under the market multiple. Just surging on the wave.
Sustainable.
What's your big takeaway, Bill, from the your single idea that you want to remember? That you want to carve in the beams of your office?
I don't have any from that. Those guys are the man, the men. I just have a lot of respect for them. And, I think that the world would be better if more people listened to what they said. And I just am really grateful that I found them.
Yeah, likewise. I had quite appreciated what a lad Charlie is either. Every time Charlie's little one-liners in that second half are hysterical.
Oh, he's the man.
Yeah.
Like he's hilarious.
Really it's my absolute favorite is, so there was a little bit of complaining in the beginning because like Buffett was meandering a bit and they only got through like 7 questions in the first half, something like that. So it was like, oh, come on. This is feeling a little draggy unless you're at 2X, what Bill was able to do.
Still a little meandering.
But here's a picture of a duck. That looks like a like a rabbit if you switch it around. Isn't that cool? Just found that on the internet.
And then second half though, picked up the pace, got through more questions. And then my absolute favorite is when the two of them talk back and forth as if we're not there. And they ask each other questions and, do you tell them this story? You remember this? Like I could do that all day long and not have any questions from the audience.
Oh, 100%.
Just a podcast between the buff dog and the Hmong.
So good.
That's what it is. Yeah. They've been doing a podcast now for 50 something years.
It's so good when they get into that mode.
They had some interesting stories. I like the fact that Charlie couldn't remember one of the stories that he had told Buffett, so Buffett had to start him off. Yeah, I can't remember what the story was.
That was the one on chiseling down the
that was good. Yeah.
The due
fairness
diligence.
Opinion.
Yeah, fairness opinions.
The story was when they were doing some of those related party transactions where Berkshire was tidying up blue chips and diversified and a few other things. They had to get a fairness opinion because Buffett was the biggest shareholder on both sides and Munger had a shareholding on both sides. So they have to recuse themselves and get a fairness opinion. And fairness opinions are the bank is putting its reputation on the line.
Did you ever have to do any of those? Did you write those up before?
I have sought them. I haven't actually had to ever do them. As a lawyer, you're not doing fairness opinions. You're doing like an opinion on the, is the company properly formed? Does it hold the assets that it says that it does?
Gotcha,
That's sort of what you're saying. But it's the same idea. But you're basically writing an insurance contract with it. You're writing a put for them.
Yeah.
So they charge a lot of money for them. It's not because it takes a lot of time to do it or it's hard to do. It's because it's risk. And so they want $1 million, and they naturally those two guys don't want to pay $1 million for that kind of thing. So Buffett said, "What do I do?" to Charlie, and Charlie said, "What you do is you take a list of the 10 investment banks that you want to do it, and you contact the first one who you want them to do it, and you say, I'm offering $50,000 to do this. It's against your economic interest to take this, but I'm just telling you that I'm offering 50. And if you say no, I'm going to go to 2 through 10 and offer them the same deal. And if everybody says no, I'm coming back at $60,000. Then we're going to go through it again."
It's basically auctioning it off to them.
Reverse Dutch auction.
Yeah.
And that's not Dutch, but reverse auction. And the first two accepted.
Yeah, they had to get 2. And then, the first 2, I don't think they had to make any more calls than the 2 calls at the front. Saved a ton of time.
Buffett said Charlie had given him 4 pieces of advice.
Yeah, it was very definitive, right? It was like, I have 4 things that he taught me that moved the needle. And that was one of them.
What was the other one? It was a good one.
Didn't he say he didn't want to share some of them because he might want to use them?
He did.
Still?
He only gave 2. But
yeah.
I wish I could remember what the other one was.
Well, people should do their homework. They can watch it.
Somebody let us know if you can remember what the other one is. Did Robinhood respond to Charlie's criticism? Someone says they did.
I don't know.
Well,
did Bitcoin
I'm
respond?
sure that's a newsworthy response that everyone should read.
Did you enjoy that?
Apparently, Bitcoin's only worth $25 for the entirety of it, according to Buffett.
He said he wouldn't give you $25 for it.
Oh, $24. Sorry.
But then you might be chiseling them.
Robinhood has argued against Charlie every time he's talked about it. And so far, Charlie looks really, really right. So it's just another press release.
Where will value folks gather in 20 years? Who is the younger Buffett and Charlie? That's a good question. I don't think we've got who's having it? Well, there are meetings like so. It's probably Markel or Fairfax, something like that, right?
Yeah.
We'll have to all get together and work that out.
Yeah. We just need to throw like a really good event.
Markel's done a really good job of co-branding into the Berkshire meeting and having Berkshire-like principles and doing, their brunch they put on Sunday morning in Omaha has long been a great event to attend. So
good bagels.
They're kind of and there's bagels.
Yeah, shout out to Tom. Thanks, man.
Yeah, sausage and egg bagel breakfast.
Delicious.
To get you over those couple of IPAs you had the night before.
That's right.
And
they started at the right time, like I was like, oh, is this going to be at 9? Nope. 10. It's the right time. Give people time to sleep in or run at 5K or whatever.
Run a 5K.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it 10:30, something like that? I agree.
I think it was 10.
Well, you get there at 10. I don't think they start talking till a little bit after that, but yeah.
We'll start throwing a conference. We'll have a dozen people around to my house for a cup of tea and some bickies. That's a cookie.
10 people.
Cup of tea and some cookies. Plus you guys. That'll be 12 of us all together.
13, I think, is last time.
It was good. It was good seeing some of the people behind the Twitter accounts that we always interact with.
Yeah.
You can't tell how gigantic someone is from their Twitter account. It turns out some big blokes walking around out there.
Including you, Toby. You're always taller in person. And unfortunately, I'm always shorter in person than people are expecting. So that's fun.
I'm apparently fatter.
I was there for that one.
We all have our crosses to bear.
I was impressed. I know who that was too. Just told you flat out to your face.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like, geez.
Clearly
What-
believes you're not a violent man.
Yeah, he's lucky he didn't get wrestled to the ground.
I'm not wrestling anybody at Berkshire. I just looked at him like that's a bold
anyway.
thing to say.
Florida man wrestles.
Yeah.
Ellis, we've made it. That's time.
We did it.
This was a fun one. It was good seeing you guys and good seeing you live.
Yeah, it was fun.
And good seeing everybody else too.
Yeah, thanks for coming
great
and saying
catching up.
hi to everybody.
I truly am energized after that. Not even the meeting, really just seeing everybody, seeing all the faces behind the names.
I'm gonna be better looking next year.
Thanks, amigos.